What's going on, everybody? This is John Jake Gaming on the mic here, coming at you with today's episode of the FCS Dynasty here on NCAA 06, featuring that NCAA Next mod, as we find ourselves week number 6 already here in the third season of the FCS Dynasty, as we got 7 games plus the game of the week on tap, so it should be a great episode once again. And I hope you guys are excited for it. If you are, make sure you go ahead, smack that like button for me. Hit that subscribe button as well if you do happen to be brand new, as we will jump into the first game of this episode, a Pacific Coast matchup. We got Montana versus North Dakota, as we will go ahead and officially get things underway, starting with the opening kickoff as we get the Pacific Coach Conference matchup officially underway. And oh my goodness, how about this to start the game out? North Dakota is actually going to recover a fumble on the opening kickoff, and they get amazing field position right from the jump. We'll see if the Fighting Hawks can take advantage as they try to throw it into the end zone, but it ends up being intercepted. And Dane Moody not as well. Starting quarterback for this North Dakota squad, he ends up hurting himself, and it turns out to be an extremely severe injury. He breaks his collarbone, and the starting quarterback for North Dakota out for 10 weeks. So really going from 0 to 100, or in this case 100 to 0 in terms of the hype in this stadium, as Montana will go ahead and march right down the field and get the first points on the board. It's going to be a touchdown for the Montana Grizzlies. They will go ahead and take an early 7-0 lead. And Travis Slaughter, he's on demon time today, actually handing it off to the tailback. This tailback's actually on demon time, shaking off the defender, Brian Hurst, all the way to the end zone. Touchdown, Montana. And the Grizzlies making their presence felt early here in Grand Forks, North Dakota, as that is going to make it a 14-0 lead early. And Brian Hurst just really followed his offensive line. They create a huge hole from him, and it ends up being barbecue chicken there. So Montana looking great early, not to mention doing a great job as well running the 2-minute drill. Brian Hurst setting up another touchdown for him. He is going to more than make up for the fumble that he has on the very first play of this game. And it's going to be 21-0 as we go into the second half of action here. But it's not all roses in the garden, though, as we will actually see Travis Slaughter get intercepted. And North Dakota, once again, we'll see if they can get something going on the offensive end. They have struggled mightily in terms of their offensive attack. But with that being said, 21-0 lead. And North Dakota actually does end up getting some points in. They do manage to get a field goal, so no shutout for the Fighting Hawks, as another turnover is forced on Travis Slaughter. That's his second interception of the day. And how about this first interception for this young safety right here? And Travis Slaughter had a clean pocket. He was trying to attack deep downfield, and just didn't work out that way. So it still remains 21-3 for now. But Brian Hurst, man, what is there to say about this kid? Brian Hurst, absolutely unstoppable, it seems like. Doesn't get into the end zone, but that rush does carry him over 160 yards on the day. North Dakota simply does not have an answer, as it leads to a 3rd and short. They go back to Brian Hurst, who shakes off a defender, and it's a touchdown for Montana, as that's going to make it 28-3 being the score. And that ends up being the final score, as well, as Montana does deliver some proof, some evidence, you would say, that, hey, Montana is a solid football team. This should be more than enough, of course, to keep them in the top 25, at least as of right now, as they take down their conference opponents. 28-3 being the final score, as North Dakota will still seek their first win in conference play in the last couple of seasons, as back in year number 2, North Dakota ending up going winless Just not good looks for this North Dakota program. As it takes us into another Pac-10 conference matchup, we got Idaho State taking on North Dakota State. They are at home, but North Dakota State, they do have one of their custom guys suspended for this game, Rod Montez. He will not be making an appearance, so that does mean that we might see a little bit more of John Weeks, the true freshman. They do have a bevy of weapons, but I don't know what it is about this coach, man. I really don't. They have all this weaponry on the outside. They got a great running back, and they just stick to this option game. I mean, to really show you how often they throw the football, Mike Sapp is the second leading receiver on this Bison squad. He only has 3 catches in 3 games. It's absolutely incredible how much these guys run the football. I mean, as long as it works for you, I guess. But we'll go ahead, get the opening kickoff. We do see Anderson, who's going to take it all the way from his end zone and going to go coast to coast. Touchdown, Bison. And that will be an early score for North Dakota State. As Idaho State, they actually do have their backup quarterback. This is Chris Abo, as Chris Palmer is injured. So we will see the backup quarterback. Usually not a winning formula, as we can see it right there, trying to lean on that running game early. But Darryl Cooley lining him up like a Christmas tree, and even recovering his own fumble as well, is going to set up an easy touchdown drive for North Dakota State, as that started out as a goal line situation and just a pretty hard hole to get out of. 14-0 deficit. You're taking on the top defense in college football, and what do? Chris Abo going deep, and he finds a receiver, and that receiver is somehow going to pull away, and it's going to be a touchdown for the Bengals of Idaho State. Abo showing some fight, rolling out to his right, threw it up for his receiver, and just used his leverage in order to win that one-on-one battle. So Idaho State at least not going to go down quietly, but they just do not have any answers for this North Dakota State option, as Ken Anderson is going to run his way all the way into the end zone. And it's another touchdown. I mean, everybody is committed to this option attack. Even that quarterback, A.J. Ferguson, we saw him get a block in as well. Definitely cares about the success of this football team. As 4th and 10. So a free and out for Idaho State. They're going to punt this football away, just trying to stop the bleeding a little bit before going to the halftime locker room. And Mike Sapp is going to make this lead even bigger. 31-7 right here being your score, as it does end up being a huge lead for North Dakota State. 34-7 now at this point, but it's not perfect though, as Idaho State is going to actually get a turnover for a change. Maybe this is a reverse of fate here. Will this be what the Bengals needed in order to get right back into his football game? Abo under center a few plays later, hands it off to the tailback. He's got some blocking upfield and finds his way into the end zone. Touchdown, Bengals. And Idaho State cuts this game down to 20. Next drive for the North Dakota State Bison, though. They drive right back down into the field inside the 10-yard line, as Ferguson is going to pitch it out to Anderson on the outside. Got some space. It finds his way into the end zone yet again. Touchdown, North Dakota State. 41-14. They already got the 40 burger. We still have at least another quarter of football that needs to be played. Last minute of the third quarter, though, trying to find some running room and say, again, backup quarterback in the game. So, got to be a little bit more cautious than maybe what they're accustomed to, as Cooley is going to force yet another fumble. But it still remains 41-14 as Abo attacks downfield, looking for a play, and is going to get one. Huge toss that gets it inside the 10-yard line again. One-on-one. When Abo gets time, he is going to take those deep shots. He has all the confidence in the world. As speaking of taking a shot, he takes a shot into the end zone, and it ends up being a touchdown for the Bengals. North Dakota State, they sent that blitz, so it was one-on-one on the outside. So there was some good moments for Idaho State for sure, as they were a little bit more competitive than expected with their backup quarterback taking on a top 10 team in the country. On the road, by the way, that's another caveat in all of this, but doesn't change the fact that North Dakota State does end up winning the football game, and Idaho State, who has had some hype going into this year, they now are 1-3 and will essentially need to win out here throughout the rest of this season in order to have any chance at the playoffs. But now we go ahead and jump into checking out the #1 team in all of college football. We got the New Hampshire Wildcats, who are going to be without Otis Grip in this one, taking on the Howard Bison, led by sophomore quarterback Carlson Saturday. Saturday's been doing his thing, man. Led him to a reasonable record. They did get humbled a little bit on their road game against South Carolina State in the previous episode. And now they are back at home taking on Carlos Montoya. We'll see if they have what it takes to defeat the #1 team in all of college football, but you gotta stop the big play first and foremost. That right there is not going to get that job done whatsoever, as Montoya, clean pocket, is able to scan the defense, and that defense getting exposed early. That is an easy pitch and catch. They'll give New Hampshire the initial lead, as Howard struggling to move the football early as well. Reminds me of Georgia Tech in their Monday night game against Clemson. And special teams sometimes makes or breaks a team, and it's certainly making New Hampshire right now. A touchdown for the Wildcats. It's now 17-0, and Howard at this point trying to stop the bleeding a little bit before we go into the halftime locker room. We got 1:20 left to play, as Montoya looking to take yet another deep shot downfield, and it's also going to be completed. It's been a tough stretch of games for Carlos Montoya to start this season, but I'll tell you what, though, he has been really getting better as the year has gone on. Speaking of getting better, no! It's almost intercepted, actually. Gutsy play by the safety, able to get a hand on it, and that will at least make it 2nd and 10, as Montoya actually going to keep it on the ground. Tailback making a couple of guys miss, and it still ends up being a touchdown anyway. 24-0, as Umar Fox, the true freshman at left tackle that was subbed in there, he makes that key block. So a 24-0 lead for New Hampshire as we jump in midway through the third quarter. Montoya looking to his right, froze yet another dot downfield, just an out route to the outside, and throw it only to where his receiver is able to make the catch. In this game, seems like right from the get-go, absolutely barbecue chicken. It's a 30-0 lead already. Howard maybe being proven that this is not a contending team. That's why they were not ranked, even though they started out 3-0, is because there was still some doubts about the squad. We're seeing them right here. They did not play well against South Carolina State, and currently getting blown out against this New Hampshire squad. But hey, to be fair, Howard, they do at least force one turnover. They get Carlos Montoya to cough the football up, but way too little too late, as Howard will end up getting slaughtered in this one, losing by a final score of 48-0. So while we've been watching the action early on, let's check out some of the games in these early slated matchups. We'll start with our custom coach, Coach Benfield, taking on Prairie View A&M and leading his Catamounts over the top, winning 28-14 on the road to help retain that number 6 ranking, as well as improve to 3-1, while Prairie View loses their first game. As for Buffalo, they will also win in MAC action, as they will go on the road to play against the winless Salukis of Southern Illinois. But Buffalo comes out on top, winning 37-31, also improving to 3-1. Sanford, meanwhile, continuing its strong start here in year number 3, as they win their rivalry game matchup against the Jacksonville State Gamecocks. Sanford now 4-0 and looking to hop into the top 15, making them 4-0 to start year 3. However, that being said, it is not all guns and roses for the top 25 teams, as South Carolina State is going to fall to the Delaware Blue Hens, losing 20-17, which means South Carolina State's chances of going into the conference championship for the ACC are in serious jeopardy. Great win for Delaware, though. Akron, however, does not get the upset bug, though, as they beat the Western Michigan Broncos, winning 41-24. Akron improves to 5-1 on the year as they look to get into the top 10. Eastern Carolina also getting themselves back on track after a rocky start to the season. They do beat the Charleston Cougars 34-3. It was an impressive blowout that we're accustomed to seeing from this program. However, speaking of blowouts, though, how about some Ivy League action? The Penn Quakers blow the doors off the Yale Bulldogs. Yale losing 49-7. Penn improves to 3-2. But now let's go ahead and check out a team that has been making some pleasant surprises. Montana State 3-0, number 18 in the country, and they're coming off a win against North Dakota State as well. What was an amazing upset victory. They get to take on the Weber State Wildcats on national television, as Montana State, they actually control their own destiny in terms of winning that automatic qualifier for the Pac-10 conference. So we'll see if they can handle that type of pressure. They already beat arguably the toughest team in the entire conference. We'll see if Maurice Billings and this Bobcat squad remain focused, or Weber State, who is not eligible for the playoffs this year due to NCAA sanctions, can they go ahead and play some spoiler hour, as Evelyn Thomas is looking to do the latter as he throws a shot over the middle. It ends up being caught. Touchdown Wildcats. And Weber State takes the lead here late in the first quarter. That is going to make it 7-3, as Evelyn Thomas, the true freshman, by the way, does a phenomenal job finding his spots. And now Weber State has the lead, but how does Maurice Billings respond? Going in the center. This is I formation. No, it's a passing play, though. Looks over the middle, and he is going to be intercepted. Weber State, they've been doing some things on defense to really stump Maurice Billings. And that time, Weber State send the blitz. Maurice Billings felt it just a little bit too much, trying to target Kev Stamper, but it was not an accurate throw. And now, Weber State, they can build onto their lead, and sure enough, oh, making some guys miss, hurdling over a defender, and is in the end zone. Touchdown, Weber State, as Evelyn Thomas coming out firing in this one. He's having a phenomenal first half, 2 first half touchdowns already, and putting the pressure on Maurice Billings. Next play, looks right hand side, trying to throw it over the middle, and that's going to be intercepted as well. That's Timothy Miller's second interception of this game. He has more interceptions than he does tackles in this ball game. That's an insane thing to think about, and it's making it a huge advantage for this Wildcat squad. Although this time around they couldn't do anything with the football, but it still keeps it 14-3. As next Montana State possession, Billings going to try again. This time does get it in there to Kev Stamper, who does come down and makes the catch. Nice little corner route. Nice concentration as well. And what's really surprising is Weber State, one of the worst defenses in the NCAA down the FCS level, and yet they only held Montana State to 3 points. And not only are they holding them to 3 points, they got 3 turnovers too. So definitely giving up some yards here or there, but at least in this circumstance, they are not bending, or they're not breaking, but there's a little bit of bend in there. But less than a minute left to play here in the first half, looking to add on as Evelyn Thomas trying to fire into the end zone. It ends up getting caught. Touchdown Wildcats. What a first half for Evelyn Thomas. That is his 3rd touchdown of the game so far. And we'll still have a second half left to play. And with Weber State already holding on to a pretty substantial lead. They even get the ball to start the second half. They did defer back on the coin toss. And look at this, right out of the locker room as well. Weber State simply running with it right now. Another touchdown for the Wildcats. It's 28-3 as Abilene Thomas, even though his guys can't compete for that national championship this year, they're still out here playing extremely hard. Things to play for sure, as they can still win a conference championship technically. As we will go ahead and see really a tight window for Abilene Thomas. It makes it a 32-point game, and man, this team is just simply falling apart right now. Bobcats can't do anything right at the moment, as it just seems like one of those games where everything's going right for Weber State, everything's going wrong for Maurice Billings and his Montana State squad right now. A chance to add even more points onto the board, as we'll see if Abilene Thomas keeps it here. No, tailback is actually going to keep it. He already has a special teams touchdown. He will go ahead and tack on a regular offensive touchdown to go with it, as this blowout is basically complete at this point. 42-3. We'll see if this Montana State squad can put up a little bit of a better fight. As matter of fact, Billings does get pulled out of the game, so this is actually their backups at this point, and the backup can't do any better. He'll also be intercepted. This time, John Bracey gets his first interception of the entire season here, as this is the 5th game that Weber State has played thus far. But a good win for Weber State, as they will improve to 3-2. But we'll see if Montana State remains in the top 25. So this game right here was actually the original game of the week. It was supposed to be a Mountain West matchup between San Diego State and UNLV. But as the game was playing, one thing that I forgot to do was actually make sure the record button was on. So I apologize for missing out on the game of the week. However, that being said though, San Diego State does take care of business in conference play, winning by a final score of 30-25. San Diego State still have not lost a single regular season game at this point in the entire series. UNLV, however, falls to 3-2. Well, let's go ahead and check out some games here, which I honestly thought would be considered a game of the week. We got Southeast Missouri State going on the road to take on the Tennessee State Tigers. Both teams ranked inside the top 20. Although Southeast Missouri State, they've only played a couple of games so far, and this is actually their conference opener. One heck of a challenge that Travis Johnson, the true freshman, is going to have to face. Really young team there at Southeast Missouri State, and this is really their first really big road test, to be honest with you. We'll see how they end up handling it, as Tyler Johnson has yet to throw an interception so far, but we're here for this defense. We'll see how the defense holds up, as Dylan Thomas is actually going to take a shot early and is going to make the completion happen. Very surprised here early, and it ends up setting up Tennessee State an opportunity to make this a 10-0 lead early. We'll see if they can make that happen, as Thomas is going to face a tremendous amount of pressure and ends up being intercepted. Picked off by Eric Davidson, as that is going to kill the drive. So this defense that Coach Dybergian put together, it bends a little bit here early, but they will not be breaking, at least anytime soon. As now, Tennessee State's next possession, Thomas looks over the middle, and that is going to be intercepted. Paul Miller is going to make a play on the football, and you know, the Red Hawks, they have been a little bit sluggish on the offensive side of football early, but with that being said, great field position. We'll see if they can take advantage. Third down, a couple plays later, they got a 3rd and 9. We'll see if Travis Johnson can go ahead and make a play for this offense. Dropping back, he's got a clean pocket. He's going to throw over the middle of the field, and it ends up being caught. Huge reception there, as that will get the Red Hawks on the verge of field goal range and driving a little bit closer now. 1st and 10 from the 24, looking to dominate the line of scrimmage. running the ball up the middle, got some space, and the 10, and is going to be dropped inside the 5-yard line. Thomas More following his blockers up the field. That's going to be a huge first down. Matter of fact, that's going to set up a goal line situation here, and Thomas More, who did some great work on that previous run play, he's going to finish the drive for the Red Hawks. That's going to be a touchdown for Southeast Missouri State, as it's now 10-3 in favor of the Red Hawks. And not a place where you want to be, trying to come back from behind when this defense is so good, but still making some plays, surprisingly, as we do end up seeing Brandon Hardy make the grab against freshman sensation Kentrill, who still does make the tackle, but gives up a ton of yards in the process. As now, Tennessee State in Red Hawks territory. They try the halfback pass, and it don't work like that. Eric Davidson, he was all over it, and that will also be intercepted as well. Should have went it to the quarterback. Dylan Thomas, he was wide but naked open. Nobody went with him. Just could not see it, which is why you typically don't ask your running back to make those passes, right? So, Red Hawks, they do get the football back here with less than 2 minutes left to play in the first half, as Travis Johnson tries to lead yet another scoring drive, but facing some pressure. Probably got rid of it a little bit sooner than what he wanted to do, and been a pretty sloppy time right now. But with that being said, that will end up also being a turnover. 4 first half turnovers between these two teams. Really not what you expect out of teams that are both in the top 25 and trying to make it back to the FCS playoffs. Both of these squads. As now, 3rd and short coming up. We got a play action here. Dylan Thomas taking a shot towards the end zone, and it actually ends up being caught. Touchdown, Tennessee State. Eric Davidson could not get over in time. And this game, all of a sudden, is all tied up. Travis Johnson trying to make some things happen before the end of the half, but he gets intercepted. Another turnover. 5 first half turnovers. And as of right now, very close game still. Still anything can happen. These two teams in the Big Ten Conference. This is how a Big Ten game would look like, to be honest. It's going to be sloppy. It's going to be ugly. To earn every point, this is what it would be like. 30 seconds left in the first half. Speaking of mistakes, we got another one. Kentrill this time, able to make him pay. That is going to be second interception for Kentrill, I believe, as Kentrill, true freshman, makes the play. And we go into halftime still all knotted up at 10 apiece. It's been tough to watch, actually, but we will see this game start to open up in favor of the Red Hawks. 5th turnover. They finally turn it into points, and the Red Hawks are going to take the lead once again here, this time the first time in the second half, as it makes it 17-10 here as we go late into the 3rd quarter. Red Hawks showing blitz. They actually back out of it, and that's also intercepted. Eric Davidson, who's just having a career day right now. He has 7 total interceptions, almost half of them coming in this game. That's his 3rd interception. Call that a hat trick. And now Red Hawks with a chance to really pull away here. How about Tyler Johnson pulling it down and getting some big yards out of it? I did not think Travis Johnson had it in him like that. More of a pocket passer prototype, but showing some bravery right there. That's a first down for Southeast Missouri State, and it's good. Eventually set up a touchdown. Depends on what happens on the next couple of plays, as Johnson able to deliver a really good ball right over the middle of the field, as it will be the 3rd red zone opportunity of the game for Southeast Missouri State. 1st and goal from the 4-yard line. We'll see if they go free for free. The fullback gonna plow his way into the end zone. Touchdown, Red Hawks. And somewhere out there, not the expert, I'm sure, is gonna be smiling, because we got ourselves a fullback dive touchdown. You absolutely love to see it, for the sake of the memes, of course, as the Red Hawks do have their biggest lead of the game here. 24-10, as We got a new quarterback in the game, but he is not any more effective, though, as Kentrill gets the interception. And not only that, also taking it all the way to the crib. Touchdown, Redhawks, as this defense showing some intense heat as well. Turnover number 6. It leads to half the points that the Redhawks have had in this game, as they are going to run away with it here in the second half. Big win for Southeast Missouri State. We'll see if they get a chance to move up as well in the AP Top 25 polls. They win by a final score of 36-10. Great win. Coach Ty Bergeen, I'm going to tell you right now, he probably has one of the best defenses in all of college football. And that defense, if you can hold teams to 10, 13, 17 points, you're going to always have an opportunity to win a football game. And you know, we definitely saw that. It also helps, of course, that he forces those 7 turnovers. But we'll also check in on a team that has been a little bit disappointing, actually. James Madison, they're 1-2, but yet here they are ranked number 7 in the country. So maybe a little bit of bias, a little bit of a benefit of the doubt to James Madison, despite their slow start to the season. They did end up losing New Hampshire. They are the number 1 team right now. And then they also lost to Texas Southern too, who could be in the mix to win the Big 12 championship. They can't go to the playoffs, but we'll see what they do here against the Wildcats of Bethune Cookman, who we haven't really checked in on since season number 1. We saw a few games from them, but long story short, the reason why we haven't, this team sucks, man. Their national rank out of 119 squads in the 100s, right? And it shows early as we get an interception taken all the way to the crib. Touchdown by Dante Bonanelli, as that's going to get the scoring started for the Dukes of James Madison, who actually did just make their real-life FBS debut recently. They destroyed Mid-Tennessee State in real life, so I am really excited to see what James Madison can do for sure. But 7-0 lead. Stephen Rogers gonna go with the play action. Got some time in the pocket. Throws to the right-hand side, and he finds one of his favorite targets, sophomore David Ford. That's gonna be good for a 31-yard reception. First down for the Dukes. As James Madison, they are busting out the keys and they are going for a drive. We'll see if Rogers can finish it, though, as he is going to be punished by Seth Moore, who is going to get his first sack of the season finally here in week number 6. Now will force a 2nd and long. But James Madison is built for this. They are built to pass the football. And we see some of that right there as Jonathan Henderson, one of the more underrated wide receivers, young wide receivers in the country. One of your guys is custom players as well. Gets them the first down and then some. But we'll see if they can finish this drive, though. They have struggled on 3rd down conversion. That's why they have really struggled to win games. That's why they're 1-2. But they will end up not only picking up the first down ultimately, but they'll also finish the drive as well. And that will make it 14-0 as we do end up seeing yet another fullback touchdown. We don't usually see fullbacks score, but that's 2 games in a row here in gameplay that we've seen something like that. But Stephen Rogers on the next drive, he ends up throwing an interception, his 5th interception of the season, and it's a really costly one as well, as the Wildcats of Bethune Cookman, a lot of Wildcat teams playing also, side note there, but Jonathan Anderson, he couldn't stop the play in time, and that ends up being a pick 6. So still a little bit of an interesting game here. Still only up by 7 points. We'll see if Stephen Rogers can change that. Instead, BJ Bowers is just going to carry the football, and he's going to pile drive a couple of defenders, as his first rush of the game goes for 22 yards. Just ran right through the secondary. Almost took that all the way to the crib. But instead, going to be chilling at about midfield as Rogers throws another one downfield. Is not the prettiest of balls by any sense of the imagination, but David Forney's going to dive for the football there and going to pick up the first down. Stephen Rogers has been pretty efficient overall. 5 for 7. Does have that interception, though. We'll see if he can get some points back. Instead, BJ Bowers with another carry. This time, he breaks through the last line of defense, and it is a touchdown for James Madison. Bowers just saw the lane and ran right through there, even stiff-arming a man into the next dimension. And now we see James Madison playing like they're supposed to play, to be honest. This is what we've been looking for all season long. Just pure dominance. Prove that you are a team that is able to make a deep playoff run. And right now, we are certainly seeing that 28-7 now being the score and looking to build upon that. Bowers outside makes it a foot race that no one on the Wildcats can win. Another touchdown. Just a simple toss play, but just had the numbers. And Bowers, of course, one of the fastest guys on the field, and that's really the biggest difference between these two football teams. Bethune Cookman just does not have the athletes. Even here, they do get this interception. Most of the time, this would be a pick six, but BJ Bowers, again, using that elite speed to able to get from behind. And that's huge, too, because there's only a handful of seconds on the clock. We'll see if the Wildcats do end up chipping on a field goal, but for some of these teams in the FCS, that would be a pick six. Not the case here, as that was huge too. Instead of getting a touchdown, they had to ultimately settle for a field goal, and it's a 25-point game, 4-possession game, and the Crumb bucket is looking to make it an even bigger lead right now, as Kevin Crumb on that crossing pattern has a linebacker on him, undersized linebacker might I add, and treated him as such. Is now 1st and 10 from the 47. It's a play action again. Stephen Rogers feeling himself now. David Thorne spinning away from a defender real quick. Almost breaks that to the crib as well. That puts his numbers up to 94 yards receiving. He's on the verge of 100. We'll see if they go to him one more time at the very least, because I'm sure James Madison is kind of close to putting in the backups at this point in the game, and they do give it to David Thorne, who gets a touchdown. Nice little icing on the cake, and James Madison looking like the team that they were hyped up to be, winning by 39 against their conference opponent. So before we jump into the remaining gameplay that we have here in week number 6, let's go ahead and check some of the FCS scores around the league and see what's smelling to step in what they're smelling in, right? So that being said, we start with Rice taking on Florida Atlantic, and Rice winning with relative ease, winning 30-0 in order to go undefeated. Speaking of undefeated ranked teams, New Mexico State also doing the same thing, taking care of business against Northern Colorado. The New Mexico State Aggies, after missing the playoffs in year 2, they also move up to 4-0. Arkansas State also can say the same thing too, as they took on the winless UL Monroe Warhawks. UL Monroe, of course, made that Cinderella run last year, but I don't think that's going to happen this time around, as Arkansas State wins 42-28, and the Warhawks are winless. Eastern Michigan, meanwhile, continues to roll on after a rocky start for the Eagles. Taking on Illinois State in MAC action, they will win by a score of 30-6. UCF also moving forward with an impressive resume so far. Currently sitting at number 4 and looking to remain there, beating Richmond 45-24. We do also get a chance to see the defending national champions Kent State go on the road to take on Western Illinois. The Leatherbacks simply could not keep up as they lose 31-7, falling to 1-3, while defending champions go 3-1. So the last game in this episode is also one of the games that I thought should have been the game of the week instead of San Diego State versus Nicholls State. This game that could very well decide who goes to the SEC Conference Championship at the end of the year, as Nicholls State, undefeated, number 17 in the country, led by their sophomore quarterback Frederick McNair, is going to take on Ikeda Woods and this Georgia Southern squad, who comes in number 17 in the entire nation. And it's going to come down to if they can stop Brandon Williams, one of the better running backs in this conference, despite the fact that he's listed as a backup, but with a couple of the running backs either injured or on suspension. We might see a little bit of him today, but of course we know one familiar face, Ikeda Woods, who almost tiptoes his way into the end zone. They won't give it to him, but he will be marked down at the 1 yard line as Ikeda Woods. What is there to say about this kid? This dude is special. I hope he gets a chance to get into the NFL somehow. Maybe not as a quarterback. I don't think they'll let him play QB at 5'6", but man, he needs to be in the NFL. He's an athlete, as it shows right there on that drive. Quick touchdown for Georgia Southern, as they will score on their very first drive of the game. That's going to make it 7-0 in favor of the Eagles, as Nicholls State has a hard time getting its group going early, as Georgia Southern, they really prove a point that they're trying to show that they are indeed the class of this conference, and it's showing early. Ikeda Woods, they just don't have anyone that can keep up. Nicholls State, as well as they have recruited the past couple of years, they still don't have the athletes to keep up with this guy. Not a lot of teams do, and it's showing early, as that's another touchdown for Georgia State. It's turning into an absolute slaughter right now, 24-0, and they're doing this on the road as well. So it's so quiet in here, you could hear a squirrel fart at the moment, as Ikeda Woods almost runs it in for yet another touchdown. He doesn't get it in there, but 8 carries, that's all it takes for him to get to 135 yards. Absolutely incredible stuff on the ground. As now, goal line situation, Ikeda actually choosing to pass it and finds a man in the end zone. Touchdown, Eagles. 31-0 in a game that could very well decide, when it's all said and done, who goes to the SEC championship. And right now, not looking good, as Frederick McNair has been completely shut down today, as they're trying to go run heavy, but it's just not working. Gotta put the ball more in Frederick McNair's hands, and they don't do that for whatever reason. They go ahead, they hand it off to not even Deuce Randolph. That's the backup running back that got that carry, and Georgia Southern has the football right back in the hands of Ikeda Woods, back in the hands on the most electric player on this field. Touchdown, Georgia Southern, 38-0. And it's been absolutely amazing what Georgia Southern has been able to do. Definitely a better start than what they've done in year number 2. I'm sure there's going to still be some folks that are going to think this team is overrated. And listen, they're going to have to prove it in the playoffs. But hey, at the very least, they seem like they're going to be in prime position to be back in the playoffs once again, especially if they can keep this up, beating a top 25 team like this and making them look like they're not a top 25 team. But Nicholls State, they do end up getting a fumble, so they do something on defense when it's already 38-0. But Frederick McNair, rough day for him today. He's gonna throw an interception right over the middle. It will end up being intercepted. It looks like DeAndre Dowdell II, a sophomore custom of yours, tipped it originally, although he does not get rewarded with the interception ultimately. But yeah, rough day for Nicholls State as they continue their downward slide. 38-0 at this point. This could make it 45-0, accounting for the extra point as Ikeda Woods, he stiff arms a defender into the next century. Touchdown, Georgia Southern. And how about this for putting an exclamation point on this episode, as Georgia Southern, they don't move up, but man, are they looking really good right now as a football team. So we now approach that midway point in the season now, where we start to get a more clear picture and check out what we got going on in Sports Illustrated magazine. Ikeda Woods gracing that cover after that huge performance that we just saw against Nicholls State, as they are going to also play against Northwestern State in the next episode. That will be one of the games that we will show here on the channel for week number 7. But let's go ahead and see what's going on in terms of the top 25 polls. As of right now, top 6 remains completely the same. Either all top 6 teams they either won their game or they were on their bye week. So really not much movement really for any of the top 10. Top 10 literally the same as last week. Actually, top 14, 15, 16 teams, literally the exact same. Now, when we get to the lower part of this top 25, then we start to see a little bit of interesting action. Got Eastern Carolina, for example, they move up 2 spots. Eastern Michigan moves up 4 to number 18. Montana up 4 to number 19 as well. Arkansas State, after their win, they're now number 20. They're a little bit of a Cinderella, looking to get to the FCS playoffs for the very first time. Nicholls State, though, what's interesting about them is that they are actually not going to get penalized that much despite their massive loss to Georgia Southern. They only fall 4 spots. Temple moves up 3 to number 22 in the country. And then we have 2 newcomers. Idaho from the WAC conference is 24, and then Tulane at number 24, which leaves Tennessee State still hanging around as of right now after their 26-point loss to Southeast Missouri State. They will still remain in that top 25. 2 teams do end up dropping out though, Montana State and South Carolina State. But with that being said, Montana State is still receiving top 25 votes as of right now, along with Eastern Illinois, Sam Houston State, and Chattanooga. As for the Heisman Watch, what we got going on, we do have a brand new front runner. That is Terrence Jones, the senior redshirt quarterback. He's having a great year so far, 1,500 yards, 18 passing touchdowns. He is sitting at that number 1 spot for right now. But Michael Williams is close on his heels. He's having a good year so far. Only seen him play in a handful of games as well, but he's already amassed 500 yards and 8 touchdowns. Well on his way for a 1,000-yard campaign. Definitely can't wait to see him play in the NFL for sure. Ryan Vondo falls to number 3. Now, I don't know if he ends up getting hurt, but he only ends up logging 10 passes for 154 yards. No touchdowns, no interceptions either. So hopefully he is not hurt. We'll have to, check in on that if something, a game presents itself. But with that being said, we do still have a defensive player on the Heisman Watch, sophomore linebacker Tavita Bean, though. 33 tackles, 17 TFLs. He's already got 9 sacks and 4 forced fumbles already. Just a guy that is really flying all over the football field so far. And this is a guy that was also a second-team preseason all-conference guy, so he had some hype. But man, they were not envisioning this. So a great season and really a breakout campaign for Tavita Bean. Speaking of breakouts, so we got Ikedo Woods, the junior redshirt, who has really been in the spotlight since this series has started. But Ikedo Woods definitely built a little bit different here. He is doing a pretty decent job passing the football, 63%. But with that being said, for the running game, that's why he really separates himself. He's averaging 12 yards per carry right now. He's got 9 touchdowns, and he's only fumbled the football twice. So he's really cut down on those turnovers so far, while being more efficient with his rushing attempts, as those rushing attempts did go down from year number 1 all the way to year number 3 as of right now. But speaking of player of the week, though, Ikedo Woods does win the offensive player of the week. And no surprises there either. We saw him dominate in the game against Nicholls State. He took that over from the get-go. Only carried the football 11 times, but had nearly 250 yards rushing and 6 touchdowns to go with it. He found the end zone a lot in this game. And no surprise that he's the offensive player of the week. Meanwhile, for the defensive player of the week, we got Sean Bryant, the senior linebacker from SMU. They played a close game against Towson, which SMU narrowly wins, 29-24 being your score. He ends up with 8 tackles, an interception, which he does end up taking to the crib, and that ends up being the ultimate difference, preventing Towson from winning that football game. But guys, that is going to wrap things up here for week number 6 action here within the 3rd season of the FCS Dynasty, as we start to approach that halfway mark in the college football season. It's been some exciting action. I'm so glad that you guys have been really enjoying this series as of late. It really means a lot to me. But with that being said, we got more action in the next episode, and I hope you guys are excited for it. If you are, make sure you go ahead, smack that like button for me. Hit that subscribe button as well if you do happen to be brand new. This is John Shea Gaming on the mic signing off. I'm hoping you're all out there having a good one. Take care, everybody.